Water gardens are living, thriving ecosystems, and they normally have plenty of light, nutrients, and of course, water, which is exactly what plants and animals need to thrive. But these conditions also make it easy for algae to thrive. Algae is perfectly natural and safe for the fish. It can even be healthy, and it's present in basically every natural body of water on Earth. Probably 95% of the time, algae is not very noticeable, and it really isn't a problem. But sometimes, enough algae grows that it starts to be a bit of an eyesore, and in rare occasions, it can grow so abundantly that it can remove oxygen from the water, harming the fish. So in this video, we're going to cover what you need to know about algae, what's normal, what's a problem, what causes it, and what we can do about it. Also, this is made in part using experience that we've gained working with and building water features in North and South Carolina. So while this video should be helpful for different areas or different types of systems like aquariums, different areas and systems might have different causes and solutions to algae. But if you've had different experience from us, we'd love to hear your suggestions and thoughts in the comments below. There are a few different types of algae that we commonly see. Brown algae that forms a dirt-colored film over the surface of the rocks. String algae, which can form green blobs or hair-like structures. And then planktonic algae, which is what's responsible for turning the water green and it floats in the water. In healthy and well-maintained water features, different types of algae normally show up and then fade away at different points of the year as the ecosystem and plants get reestablished for the year. Typically, we expect our water features to be a little bit fuzzy in the spring as string algae starts to grow, and then as it gets warmer, the string algae starts to fade away. For most of the water features that we build, this is the only real spike of algae we expect to see. For the rest of the year, there might be some string algae in the falls, the rocks might have a green film on them, and the water might have a green tint to it, but this is all just a sign that the ecosystem is alive and healthy and doing good. For some water features, it can be normal to have a brown film of algae in the colder months, and then in the summer months, the water can start to turn a bit more green. If your system is so green that you can't see more than a few inches inside, or if you have just a huge amount of string algae, this is a sign that your system really isn't functioning as well as a system can function. From our experience, no amount of string algae has ever been a problem for us. In fact, the animals seem like they really like a lot of string algae in the system. But if algae ever totally covers the surface of the water, or if it's so green that you can't see more than an inch or two in the water, this could start to really affect the health and well-being of your fish. So, what causes algae? Like basically every living thing, algae grows where algae can grow. And algae can grow in bodies of water that have enough sunlight and nutrients for them to grow. And this is exactly what plants need as well. The biggest and most common reason a water feature might have a significant amount of algae is because there's just too many nutrients, so the plants and the algae can both thrive. The nutrients I'm referring to are phosphorus and nitrogen, which come from and feed living things. Nutrients in the system mostly come from feeding the fish, but any organic matter or muck in the system can also contribute to high nutrient levels. Sometimes, however, the nutrients come from your water supply itself, so that's something to check if you're having an issue. So if there's plenty of nutrients and sunlight for both the plants and algae to thrive, then probably both plants and algae will thrive. The second most common reason for algae issues is insufficient biological filtration. Biological filtration is essentially a colony of beneficial bacteria that live on the surface of biological filter media. That's why biological filter media is designed with a lot of weird shapes and folds, is because it maximizes the amount of surface area for the bacterial colony to live on. These bacteria are responsible for cycling the water, so as uneaten fish food, fish waste, and fish debris breaks down and releases ammonia, the bacteria process the ammonia into nitrite, and then the nitrite into nitrate. This is very, very important because both ammonia and nitrite are toxic for both the fish and the plants. Nitrate is good for the system, but too much of that also encourages algae to grow. So, algae is able to tolerate the ammonia and nitrite better than the plants and the fish. So in these systems, the algae might grow just fine, while the plants either struggle to grow or maybe even die. So a lack of biological filtration might explain why algae grows just fine, while your plants are not doing so good. If your water feature doesn't have enough circulation or oxygenation, this can also cause algae to grow and get a good foothold. Circulation helps limit the amount of water that can break into the surface of the water. It also helps deliver nutrients to the plants and direct any uneaten fish food or organic debris into the skimmer where it can be removed. Oxygenation is also very important for a water feature because the beneficial bacteria colony needs oxygen to survive, so without enough oxygen, your filter might not work at all. So now you know a pretty good bit about algae, but how do we actually remove it? There are basically two things that you'll want to do. The first is to change the ecosystem so that the algae isn't really able to grow, and the second is to remove the algae that has already grown. The first step is diagnosing what's going wrong. First, you'll want to test the water to see if ammonia, nitrite, nitrate, or phosphate are elevated. If ammonia or nitrite are elevated, you may be able to solve this by feeding your fish less or by rehoming some of your fish. Or you might need to add a second biofilter or more biofilter media. If you add a second biofilter or more biofilter media, you'll want to add pond starter bacteria so that beneficial bacteria colony can get going right away. All you need is enough biological filter media so that ammonia and nitrite are not detectable with a test kit. Typically, biofilters are rated for a certain amount of gallons in the system, and then you use those amount of gallons to determine how many fish should be in there. If nitrate or phosphate is high, then probably your filter is good. You just need fewer nutrients entering the system or more nutrients leaving the system. In this case, you'd probably want to start by removing any organic debris that's breaking down in the system, any muck. You might have your system professionally cleaned, and you might do some water changes. Keep in mind though, water changes won't help if the water supply is the source of your nutrient issue. Then consider feeding your system less, rehoming some fish, doing water changes, or adding more plants to help remove more nutrients. And really, between 10 and 50% of your water feature surface should be plants. Really, you could probably do fewer plants than this if you wish, as long as you have very little nutrients going into the system. Or, if you would like, you could also do as many plants as you want. It's just a matter of aesthetics at that point. Also, floating plants like water hyacinth, water lettuce, and frogbit can also be a really great way to remove nutrients because as they grow, they store the nutrients in their body. And then because they grow so quickly, you can easily scoop them out and throw them away, thereby removing the nutrients from the system altogether. Just know that many different water feature plants can be very invasive and illegal, so check that before you add any new water feature plants to your system. If none of these water tests are elevated, you may need to add aerators or a second pump for more circulation or a power head to fix the issue. Fixing the ecosystem of water feature can be a bit of a lengthy process, but more plants, more biological filtration, and more oxygen often help. Also, if you don't have any detectable nitrate or phosphate in the system, that could be a different situation where you have an ultra low nutrient system. This can be complicated and beyond the scope of this video, but you might have to add nutrients to the system to get everything to work right. Once you've done the work to improve the ecosystem of your water feature, it's time to start removing the algae that's already grown in there. Do research before using chemicals to remove algae, as some of these can harm animals or plants that you want to thrive in the system, but there are a number of good tools to remove algae. A few common tools for fighting algae are liquid algicides, which gradually break down and dissolve the algae from your water feature, contact algicides, which can be sprinkled onto the surface of string algae, which help dissolve it away, beneficial bacteria, which will actually eat away the algae itself, ionogen systems, which do a really good job breaking back string algae and managing algae numbers, UV systems, which will clump together or kill the green suspended water, thereby clearing up the water. But this one can be a bit of an expensive pain in the neck. And auto-dosing systems, which will gradually feed different water treatments into your water feature, keeping it nice and healthy and well supplemented. And of course, algae can be removed manually, which is a good way to break back a big chunk of the algae issue you might have. Do a little bit of research and read any instruction manuals before you use any of the water treatments we mentioned, but this should do a good job taking back a lot of the algae without too much headache. So to quickly recap, managing algae requires adequate filtration, managing nutrient levels, removing muck and debris from the system, and ensuring the system has adequate aeration and circulation. Some algae is perfectly normal and healthy for your system, and removing algae is a two-step process of improving the ecosystem and removing the algae that is already grown inside the ecosystem. And then finally, if you don't want to deal with this yourself, we and other companies offer maintenance services ranging from advising to cleaning to regular maintenance packages. But keep in mind, we might need to make changes to circulation, filtration, aeration, or planting before anything we could really do to maintain the system might help much at all. And honestly, this can be a bit of a lengthy, difficult process if the water feature wasn't built properly originally. Sometimes it's honestly worth just starting over with a new system that is built properly than to try to fix an old, broken system. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them down below. We hope you liked this video and that it was helpful, and if it was, consider leaving us a like and subscribing. It really helps us out a lot. And until next time, thanks so much for watching.